Welcome to the Modern Assyrian program on AGN. My name is Carmen Morad. Today, we are at the Turlock Police Department with Chief Jason Hedden. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited you accepted our invitation, and of course, you are hosting us here at the beautiful Turlock Police Department. We are so excited to have you as our new chief.
Thank you. I'm very proud to be here. Turlock is my home community, and this was my end goal. I'm so excited to be working here in my own community.
Chief Jason, I want to welcome you in this new position. We realize that this is an awesome responsibility, but you have earned it. You have worked so hard for it. And as our chief in our city of Turlock, I want to welcome you and remind our viewers that we were invited to your swearing-in ceremony as representation from the Assyrian community with the Assyrian American Civic Club. Thank you for inviting us and including us in a very special ceremony.
I was happy to have you there. The welcoming was so genuine, and I felt the love, and I really appreciate it.
You know, to see law enforcement from the region, from different counties and cities, and from where you started, tell us a little bit about your background and how you chose this law enforcement profession as your career.
Sure. I'm a lifelong resident of Stanislaus County. I grew up in Waterford, just east of here. I got interested in high school in the Explorer program. I started with the California Highway Patrol, and that was quite a commute out to Salida as a young high school student, and I learned about the Sheriff's Department Explorer program. I joined the Sheriff's Department Explorer program about a year into my exploring, and was given a job in the city of Waterford as a code enforcement officer, a clerical community aide for the Sheriff's Department. And that's where my interest in law enforcement just really grew. It was something that it was part of me. It was what I knew that I wanted to do. I love serving the community. I love doing stuff like this. I love getting out and talking to people and meeting people. And it had me there. So I went to the police academy and I applied, and Los Banos was the first agency to pick me up. So I spent about 18 years down there, and I made it through the ranks. I was a gang detective. I worked pretty much every special assignment in the department before my last position as the acting police chief in Los Banos. And then I saw the police chief position come open in Turlock when Chief Amfar retired, and I thought, this is my opportunity to come home and work in my community. So I was very excited to put in an application and at the possibility of coming to work here, and that has become a reality. So.
Well, your predecessor, Chief Nino Amir Farr, of course, he has Assyrian heritage. And we were fortunate enough to interview him in this building. So, as you said it so eloquently, Chief, we are such a diverse community. And when we get to celebrate that diversity, it brings us closer to each other. So when we do community outreach, when you make time out of your extremely busy schedule to have us over here, we really appreciate that.
Thank you. And Chief Nino is very much still a part of the Turlock Police Department. Him and I talk regularly. He's been very supportive of me coming in. He's given me advice. He has a lot of experience with the Turlock Police Department and the Turlock community. So I've really just appreciated him and his mentorship. He's very much a part of our PAL program here. It's a passion in him, and something that he hasn't given up. So I'm just really thankful for his friendship and his mentorship.
Fantastic. It becomes a calling for you guys when you wear the uniform, when you take the oath. And again, I so appreciate having this conversation with us. Let's talk about the city of Turlock. Your position is such an awesome responsibility. It's not just representing and your leadership. It's also an administrative position. You're in charge of a huge budget with the city of Turlock. Please share with us and with our viewers, what are some of the challenges and the trending crime trends that you see in the city of Turlock?
As the police chief, some of my biggest complaints tend to be homeless and blight issues and traffic. We are working with the city council to combat those issues. In our budget, our new budget, we've been allocated 12 new positions. And those positions include a lieutenant to oversee some of our services. We're working on deploying our lieutenant watch commanders out onto the street from an administrative office capacity, where we have more oversight of what's going on in our patrol divisions and functions. We're adding 2 neighborhood resource officers. We have one, Ian Rodriguez. Many people have had an opportunity to meet him. And he's the officer that goes out in our community and really connects with the homeless, connects with residents, and tries to find common ground and direct our homeless residents to services. So I'm excited to bring additional officers to his team with the City Council support. So one of my biggest priorities right now is reorganizing the police department and bringing those resources here so that we can provide more responsive services to our community.
You know, you said that homelessness and blight, we see that. It's such a visible part of what's going on in our cities. We drive on 99, we see the homeless encampments, we see the plight, and there are certain criminal activity that is a byproduct of that. You know, interviewing different elected officials or candidates, chief, they constantly talk about, well, it's Prop 47, right? It's the early release of violent criminals and offenders, and there's always the mental health and substance abuse conversation as well. There is a balance that all goes well. How is the city of Turlock and your vision with your leadership trying to tackle the homelessness issue, working with Stanislaus County leadership?
Next week, we'll be working on hiring a homeless coordinator. It's a new position that the City Council created. We're working with the county's care team and doing a lot of outreach. The mayor and I have been out to encampments here in Turlock. Everyone's probably familiar with the encampment. It's pretty large in the area of Burger King and 99 there. It's a significant problem for us. We've been working with our county outreach groups and our partners around the county, including Caltrans and the California Highway Patrol, to get that encampment moved. Our goal is to direct people to services. There's plenty of services out there and a lot of organizations that want to help homeless in our community, and that is the goal, to drive them to those services. We just had a care team pop up here in Turlock today from 10 to 2. They offered services and did haircuts for our homeless.
Wow.
The police department was involved in that, and the goal is to bridge those relationships. Maybe they don't take our services today, but maybe by building that relationship, they take it in the future, and we take this homeless issue one step at a time. You talked a lot about the props and measures, and I think that we need to get away from blaming things and just work together and identify we have a problem. We all see it. We live here in this community. We're not unique. Other communities are experiencing the exact same situation, and we just need to work together for creative solutions. Sometimes solutions don't work, but we get back on the horse and we try again to improve the situation.
You're so eloquent when you say that we don't need to blame people. And you know, being homeless is not a crime. Those who experience homelessness, we all know, with working with Focus on Prevention with our county, which is a 10-year long-term plan, it has so many different layers and elements to it. But you're absolutely right. I think the closer we get to those who need help and trying to offer those services, to have like a kiosk, for example, but we can't force those services to those people who don't want it. So let's talk about, you mentioned mentorship. You were an explorer as a young man, and the reason I bring that up is because there are those watching you today that will be for the first time, let's say someone young or someone who hasn't had the opportunity to hear from a chief of police. Who has mentored you when you were growing up? Because mentorship is so important in our lifetime, and especially for someone who's young, who perhaps doesn't have what every family should have at home. Who mentored you and kind of kept you in line, let's say?
Yeah, I had a lot of mentors. So being part of the Law Enforcement Explorer program at both the California Highway Patrol and the Sheriff's Department, there were a lot of mentors out there, people that were interested in the energy that I had in becoming a police officer, and they focused that energy and taught me all of the steps that I need to do to achieve it, and keeping a clean background and getting an education. And then all the way up into my career, when I became a police officer, I had a sergeant at the time, who's now the police chief in Los Banos, who sort of mentored me up. He took me under his wing, and he guided me the right way to do things, how you engage with the community, how to prepare for an interview, and how to get into a special assignment by working hard and doing things that other people aren't doing. So I've had a lot of great mentors in my career, and I think it started with the Explorer program.
Fantastic. I think we'll share some of the links at the end of this program for those who might be interested to give a call, or maybe do, what is it called when you shadow a police officer? When you get to follow them and kind of see, maybe get a tour of the police, your local police department, so you feel closer to
Yes.
what law enforcement does. Chief, we have to talk about the social justice issues going on in our communities today. It's not what it used to be. A lot has changed. I was interviewing our sheriff, Jeff Dirksey, and you know, after the Floyd case, a lot has changed, and we would be amiss not to talk about it, because it changes things. It changes the dynamic of the conversation. What steps and measures has the Turlock Police Department taken to tackle that conversation?
I think it's building relationships in the community. I think that it's getting out there ahead of these problems and meeting the community. The community has to have trust in their police department. The community allows us to function as a police department, as an organization, as a city. They give us that power. So I think it's building trust with the community and making sure that they understand what law enforcement's role is, that they understand why we respond the way that we respond to certain incidents in our community. I think that's the biggest challenge, is building those relationships up. There's been many policies and changes in law that the police department's implemented to make our officers more well-trained to deal with certain situations, de-escalation. But I think the biggest component for me is if the community understands and respects the police department, then they have trust from the immediate onset of what happened, and they trust that the police department did the right thing in their actions.
Absolutely. You know, it does make a difference. In the city of Modesto, with Modesto Police Department, they can have access to mental health clinicians for de-escalation of situations.
Sure.
And you know, I always share this when I talk to people. When we're in trouble, who do we call? We call you guys. When we are in fear, who do we call? When we have an accident, when something is wrong. A lot of times when we come in contact with you, that means something good hasn't happened. We're either a victim, or unfortunately we are the perpetrator, right? So it is these kinds of interviews, Chief, it is this kind of contact that really gets to let people see this side of you. Someone who has worked hard, someone who's taken an oath, or you have achieved, I want to say, the pinnacle of your career to be the chief, but you have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of work to do in the community. So I think it's important for partners in the community to help you along with that, because as you mentioned earlier in our conversation, we are such a diverse county. There are so many different backgrounds of people who come from countries that don't trust the government. They don't trust people in uniform. We need to change that. You know, there are little refugee children that are here for the first time. When they see you in uniform, what you represent to them is the first time that they come in contact with someone in uniform or law enforcement. So you have a lot of work to do for that image, for people to know that, you know, when you're in trouble, when you're scared, you call the police. They're here to help.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing a little bit of your background, some of your vision. This is early on. I would like to invite you to our program again. If there's anything you want to share with us or share our viewers, please let our viewers know in closing what they have to look forward to hearing from Chief Jason Hedden.
Sure. I'm very excited to be Turlock's police chief. This is my home. This is where my kids go to school and where my wife and I raise our family. So I'm very invested in the Turlock community. This was, like you said, the pinnacle. So this is my lifelong dream to be the police chief in my own home community. And I've achieved that. So I've met my goals, and now I'm proud and excited to work with the men and women of the Turlock Police Department and the Turlock community to just be a great chief and support the community. And like I said, I get a little emotional because this is the pinnacle. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you so much, Chief, for making time for us. The Assyrian community is here to partner with you to make sure that everyone can have a safer city of Turlock and a safer community to live, to raise our children, like you said, to have a better understanding of what it's like to be close to our law enforcement and how to help you guys as well.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. This concludes my conversation with Chief Jason Hedden with the City of Turlock Police Department. Join me on the next Modern Assyrian.
Mid-America Furniture, 7546 North Milwaukee, Niles, Illinois. Mid-America Furniture إلى only branch لخا هذا زوينا هايو رقبن أمصن عطوراي زودة من تلاي خمسة شنة. وجو Mid-America Furniture هدية اتلو خسيل الرابع جورا. إنزونيتون Furniture قتشل بيت الديوخن ماسيتون قانيتون خراي خا coffee table ين خا mattress. هذا زم ماسيتون قانيتون خا خراي خا TV stand. تمنو خزخ الدواسيل الرابع جورا جو Mid-America Furniture. أغدية أوتاخ اتيال السورة إنزونيتون لتشلو ست بتقاوي لوخن أي ماترس قخوراي ين فري قتشل ختنا وشالو أي ست لخا إلى سدانتا وشابرتا وشتسا ونا أي ست بتقانيتون قدية ماترس خراي ين فري وقتشل مخبانة فرنتشر قيسة solid wood أي إلى number 1 seller وإن اتلو خديال السورة وقد تمست السناي أي sleeper set من تركي إلى رابا سدنتا هذا غزة لو يا رابا شخنتا جقيطة ولو يا رابا قرلتا جستوا إذن اتلوخون أرخي قستورج يندينا بتايكس لوخون أي sleeper set من تركي مصيا فتخة ويا خقاروات full size ين queen size قد شلو أرخديوخون وإذن آتيتون قمر أمريكا Furniture تيمو نغزي من شلو نو sectionals أخدية sectional لخا ماسيتون شخلبيتون لو مت أرخد بيتون ورهذا غزة Mid-America Furniture تراب السلكشن اتطاغي توتا أخديها ست شابرتها لخا وبين مدخران قالوا خون Mid-America Furniture اتلو 12 months 0 interest تري سريارخي 0 interest وانزونيتن من Mid-America Furniture هذا غزة بتاوي لخون money back ينخ gift card من أراكس فود